This podcast is supported by listeners like you. We're grateful for your tax-deductible donation at newthoughtphilly.org or the link in the episode description.
A practical prayer is a prayer that works.
These discussions between Reverend Bill Marcioni and Carol Lawrence dive into the details of how it works and how to work it.
Reverend Bill is a New Thought minister and the author of Practical Prayer for Real Results.
Your new life begins with a new thought.
Carol Lawrence is on a spiritual quest, finding the New Thought teaching after decades on the pulpit in 3 different traditional denominations.
I've got some questions.
Together, they're exploring the philosophy and activities that come together from many of the world's religions to create the practical spirituality that is New Thought.
Welcome to the Practical Prayer Podcast. I'm Carol, here with Reverend Dr. Bill Marcioni.
I was going to start with a joke about timing, but I'm not going to. But you wanted to talk about timing and
Yes.
how in certain contexts, spiritual contexts especially, timing gets to be the scapegoat. Explain a little bit more about people's perspective on this.
Yeah, it is absolutely completely simple when I explain it. But let me do my regular, not disclaimer, but to say that I absolutely respect the church tradition. I do. I think it answers a need in the human condition. Because God supplies all of our needs, so I think the traditional church is a supply of needs of some. Having said that, you understand there's no disrespect.
Okay.
But in that space that I served for well over 30 years, here's one of the things that used to drive me nuts. When I would ask, and then others would, it's not an unusual question, like, why isn't this happening? I've been working hard for it, and what is missing? What am I not doing? And they're really explaining their heart away. And the response comes, well, it's in God's time. It's God's timing. And you just have to wait. And I always imagine the person just fainting right there on the floor.
You want to punch somebody.
It's deflating, like all of this that I'm doing is just like, I don't have a legitimate concern. Am I stupid? What is it? And you're not going to ask those questions because then it makes you seem like you are opposing the authority of God and all of that business. But it's not that, it's not that. And yeah, so I wanted to hear you talk about it because it's that one of those things that is just, it's like a cliche.
Yeah.
And
I will talk
unhelpful
about
cliche.
Well, yeah. And there's a couple of things that are going on there. There's there's a huge amount of validity to the whole timing question. And I can speak eloquently about unfolding and how things, need to happen in a particular order. For example, we're at the end of the summer season now, and I got tomatoes growing in my backyard. And they started in my basement. Little tiny seeds, and they turned into little plants, and they went outside, and they grew into vines, and now they got tomatoes on them, and they continue having tomatoes. And then at some point, they're going to stop having tomatoes. For me to be impatient 3 weeks in and say, where's the tomatoes? Why don't I have my tomatoes now? I've been working really hard on the tomatoes. Why can't I have my tomatoes? It's like the tomatoes aren't ready. You're going to have to wait for the tomatoes to unfold. There's some growth and blossoming that needs to happen in order for the tomatoes to come into the condition and stature that I'm looking for, because I don't want to be eating partly germinated tomato seeds. That said, it's not because God didn't want you to have tomatoes. And it's God's timing is another way of saying, let's blame it on the big Santa Claus in the sky who's deciding yes, no, maybe, or later. And that's the part that I would guess is rubbing you the wrong way. or used to before you got out of that business.
I always had thoughts beneath the thing, but I don't hear much of that going on. I never heard of the becauses or consider what might else be going on. It's like there's a lot of things going on that, okay, Ralph Waldo Emerson comes to mind when he says that whatever you want, the universe conspires to make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
Conspiring means there has to be a couple of things out there working, not just you sitting there waiting. You know what I mean? So help me out with this. If part of the waiting means there's some growth needing to happen in me, something like that, please tell me that. Don't just say it's God's divine timing, watching me squirm down here, not understanding anything.
Yeah. It's an easy, pat answer,
Mm-hmm.
and the way to engage that question, I've been doing the work. I've been clearing my consciousness. I've set the intention. I know exactly what it is I want to be experiencing, and it's just not working. What's going on? The first response is, that sucks. That really sucks to be in that experience where you know exactly the new experience that you want to be having, and you're not having it yet.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not in control of when it happens or how it happens. How is God's business, and so is when. And the question for us then is not, let me go back and pray harder or do more. It's to look at where we are, and is there any part that I'm playing in the fact this hasn't shown up yet?
Yeah.
I've told the story before about, somebody who's like, I really want to have a life partner, somebody to share my, to wake up in my bed and to share my life with. And I asked, is there space for their clothes in your closet? Oh, well, no. Well, all right. You got some work to do. Because if they show up, you don't have room for them. Do you have the time? You really want to have a dog. You want to have the world's best dog. Do you have time to take care of a dog? Do you have the attention to take? No, I'm not talking about Great Danes.
Telling my business.
I wasn't speaking of you specifically. I was thinking about my dog who's taking a nap right over there. And there are responsibilities that come along with that. And if we're not ready to shoulder the responsibilities, but claim that we want all the goodies, the universe is going to see right through that. and we get what it is that we deserve. And it could go in a couple of different directions. It could take forever for the dog or the relationship to show up, or it could show up immediately. And it's the universe saying, okay, deal with this. You've got a puppy. Now what? Do you want some of those water-resistant pads? Do you need a little gate to put across the stairs? Do you need chew toys? Do you need to be able to replace your furniture really soon?
I'm so bad, but I can't help but tell you this little piece. I was thinking the exact same thing yesterday, right? And you know me. I said, okay, Spirit, listen, here's the deal. Because people know about me and my Great Dane loves and all that. There's some people out there praying. I got to tell them to stop. So I said, all right. So I said, Spirit, I tell you what, the last one I had, okay, you know what I'm talking about. If I could be guaranteed to get that temperament, we're good. But if you can't guarantee me that temperament, forget it. So, but to me, that's engaging with Spirit. I don't know, in a funny way, but it's very real.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm hearing what you're saying. And it feels like you don't want to take your mind off Spirit because, yes, we are co-creators. But I really like the part where you said, what's my part? That it's like, what's my part to do?
Mm-hmm.
And then you not so much in a hurry, I think.
Yeah.
Because sometimes your part might take a minute.
Right. I want to have a Ferrari. Great. Do you know how much Ferrari insurance costs? There's things to think about.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And it's not a pat answer like, it's God's timing. Like the Ferrari will show up when God wants you to have a Ferrari. We've been over that before. And I love boiling it down to principle, which has 2 points to be made. The principle, and this is one that Ralph Waldo Emerson was all over, is that there's one power, one presence, one love, one intelligence, one substance, one source. There is one, whatever a creation story is. And everything that exists is that one taking its own particular form. So we can't be looking to something outside of ourselves, because what's outside of ourselves and what's within ourselves is exactly the same from a different angle. So when there's something that I want, the question is, am I going to get it? And the other question is, what does that want, that feeling of want actually mean? You know, because if I want to have the relationship, or if I want to have the job, or if I want to have whatever, and the reason that I want to have it is because it will it'll improve my self-esteem. If I have that relationship, it'll make me feel that I'm loved. Well, okay, if I don't love myself, then what kind of relationship am I going to attract? And if I don't know how to love myself, how am I going to love somebody else? And who's going to volunteer for that? So there may be some work to do in straightening our internal alignment so that we're okay with, with that we're in alignment, in harmony with the good that we're seeking. And the other really big thing is that this infinite creative power, this infinite universe that can create everything, doesn't really care whether we have whatever it is that we call good. It's available to us, and it can show up for us or not. And it's all based on all of the subtle movements in consciousness. Not what we say we believe, but what we actually believe, and what we accept from our culture that we all believe, and how the good can show up. And then that's kind of creates the path or the channel that the good is going to flow through. And sometimes, as you say, there's some work involved in digging a new channel.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yes, there is work involved. But here's the good part, I think. Let's just stick with the co-creative process, right? And my part to do. You start wondering, well, what is my part to do? Calm down, okay? So let me lighten things up a little bit. I pull a card for myself every single day, every day, at least one. And if you read card spreads and all this, they had all these different questions. I'm really simple. Okay, so what do I need to know today? That's it. And I either get it then, or I'm going to get it sometime during the day. Mm-hmm. And particularly if I got some project going on, I don't need to explain it to spirit. I don't need to get all deep and confused. What do I need to know? And things pop up. And I'm thinking, well, does this really have anything to do with that? Yeah, because if it came to my mind, it does. That's just the way I look at it. Don't be in such a hurry. Mm-hmm. Just calm down. You're not going to die before you fulfill your purpose. Or at least don't think about it like that. So just relax and see what comes up. And maybe it is something that is work. Okay. It's like, I don't like it, but I'm not going to get to what I really want unless I deal with this. All right, I may as well get started. Right? It's about an attitude, I think. It's about, you used the word patience. I think you did. It's about, all right, I would like to have this right now, but there's something here that I really need. And if I really want that thing over there in the best possible way, so it's nice for you and nice for everybody else and not causing problems, I got a little something here I got to deal with. Mm-hmm. And the sooner I get started on it, I don't have to love it. Just deal with it.
Yeah.
And I'm going to get help, right?
Yeah.
From spirit even dealing with it.
And there could be some interval of time involved. There's a great quote from David G., who says, "May I have the patience to wait while my mud settles and my water turns clear." Mm-hmm. It's like there's no blame on how the mud got into the water, where the turbulence came from, how the bottom got shaken up. But if I'm going to stop shaking, it's not like the water's going to turn clear instantly. Sometimes we got to wait. Sometimes, and it's not asking God to give us patience. I refuse to do that. Because an infinite creative power that has been in existence since before the beginning of time has much more time than I have patience for. Mm-hmm. If God wants me to learn patience, I'll know that I have it because I get put at the end of a very long line and don't kill anybody. But I'm not going to pray for patience. However, I'm going to, given a situation, I'm going to pray to have the appropriate patience to participate in the unfolding.
I agree. And, like I said, I've been through a lot of stuff that has, I'm felt impatient about it. How can I do this with the best attitude? That's important to me because I don't want to get on my own nerves. I've done that. I just would like to figure out, okay, if I have to do this, what's the best way for me to do it or the best way to go about it? And that's important too, because I don't want to do anything begrudgingly. So I'm thinking of this scripture that I'm probably never interpreted the way that anybody wanted me to, but it worked for me. The scripture says, occupy till I come. So in my thought, when I read that, even the very first time I read it, occupy, like get busy, do something until I come. I'm coming. Just do something productive until I get there. Something productive that will be productive and, complementary to what you want, or something that's going to do somebody else some good. Do something other than sitting there complaining. That's just what it meant to me. So that's about my good attitude or getting to a good attitude. So I said, okay, I got to wait. I got to deal with this issue that's in front of me. It's going to take some time. Occupy. What else can I do while I'm doing this? Mm-hmm. It's like I needed some information and I wasn't going to be able to get it because of the weekend. I could be pissy the whole weekend. Why are they not open? That the internet is, what's wrong with these people? Listen, you're not getting it till Monday. Occupy till I come. Find something else to do. Mm-hmm. Find something else productive and go with that.
Yeah. And when you said that, actually, I interpreted occupy slightly differently. You go to the restroom on the airplane and it says occupied. Or there's a seat and there's somebody in it, it's occupied. And I think the biggest piece of occupy is be present. Mm-hmm. Stay there and be present. Now, and in your perspective, do something while you're waiting. You're not just going to sit there and I'm just going to sit here for 17 months waiting for the good to show up. I'm going to do something in the meantime. But I'm going to stay present. I'm going to be present to this idea, to this newness that I'm inviting in. I'm going to stay present to whatever my prayer or my intention is, and then let the infinite create that. But I'm not going to say, oh, this is what I want, and then go do something different. It's like, how much did you want it? Again.
One thing that came to mind while you were saying that is the timing. What you want is wonderful. I'm not trying to say that there's anything wrong with what you want, but there may be something extra. There may be something more. There may be something slightly different. Mm-hmm. And so while you are waiting or whatever you're taking care of, I'm saying this myself. I have a desired reality, but I'll be honest with you. It has evolved. It's changed a bit. It's not entirely different, but there's more color to it. There's more whatever, and it's not so much of that. If I had gotten it when I wanted it, obviously I'd probably be unhappy with it by now.
By now, yeah.
By now. So,
gotten old and rusty by now.
Yeah, or even if it was, I'm thinking about a year ago, so many things have happened. AI has happened, which opens up a whole lot of different opportunities, not just doing your work. Somebody said, let me see if I can quote it right. I didn't want AI to do my work so I'd have time to do laundry. I want AI to do my laundry so I have time to do my work. Mm. So I'm looking at AI like I don't need AI to do what I do. I enjoy what I do. But it is opening up our things that I could see more of. And it's like oh, okay, wow. But if I had stopped a year ago, I wouldn't have the ahas and, let me think about this. That's a good idea. There would have been no room for it and may not have been even at a place where I was willing to see it. So there's a good thing about being in the moment. And I won't use the word patience because it's not a comfortable word, but it's good to be there to think about it a little bit.
Yeah, to be present.
Yeah.
Let's take a break, and when we come back, here's something bold. We're going to talk about the cure for cancer.
Learn to put practical prayer to work in your life. The steps are simple to learn and let you begin to get real results to create the life of your dreams immediately. Reverend Bill Marcione's widely acclaimed book, Practical Prayer for Real Results, gives you a clear summary of the New Thought principles behind practical prayer and the series of easy-to-understand steps found in the most effective prayers from religions and spiritual practices all over the world and throughout history. Practical prayer is not a replacement for your religion or practice. It's a technique to make the work you do in consciousness even more effective. The book includes 40 prayers on various topics that you can adapt as needed and use as your own. Practical Prayer for Real Results is available in paperback, Kindle, and audiobook on Amazon or at b-the-light.com. That's b-the-light.com.
Welcome back to the Practical Prayer Podcast. I'm Carol, here with Reverend Dr. Bill Marcione.
Having a wonderful conversation about timing. And before the break, I mentioned that we would bring the cure for cancer into the conversation. And the reason I bring that up is because people have been working on curing cancer and treating cancer and minimizing cancer for long time. And my mom had ovarian cancer and passed away in 1989. Now, timing-wise, I would have preferred for cancer to be cured before then. But it wasn't. And it didn't. And it isn't. And it's part of the cycle. You know, that's something that exists in our human experience, in our world, and it continues to until it doesn't. And if somebody is going to, gets passionate, and there are scientists and physicians and leaders who are just passionate about finding a way to minimize the effects of cancer or cure it. And bravo, and keep up the good work. And there doesn't need to be a determination. It has to happen in this time frame. We're going to keep at it until it's done. And lots of stuff has gotten better. Lots of people who, it was a terminal diagnosis and they expected them to live, weeks or months. People are now living years and years and years. So there's a lot of progress being made, even though you could say, well, don't have a cure for cancer yet. And it's about doing the work, being present, and understanding that maybe the transformation is not going to happen on your time schedule or to your liking. Okay, go and cry and beat a pillow and get on with your life. I did.
Yeah. That's a strong one. Yeah.
People, talk about issues of health or dying as though it's the big boogeyman. Oh my goodness, I might die. Well, yeah, we're all going to at some point. It's not convenient to think about, and we really, would like to schedule that for as far in the future as possible. And if everybody had control over it, there would be complete chaos. You'd never be able to get a parking space. Nobody'd leave. there's an unfolding. There's a process in the timing and how the pieces fit together. And the only thing that we're certain of was with every birthday there becomes an end of life. So, and we're here for a segment. And if that's the biggest thing that's going on for us, then everything else kind of fits into a subset of that. So yeah, it's important, and yeah, I want to have it. And if it doesn't come together the way that I want it to, how can I still be okay?
Mm-hmm.
How can I be okay if what I really want to have is a new car? But I also am aware that I'm on the planet for a limited time. And look at the bigger picture. Would I trade a year or 10 years or 25 years so I have the car? Well, when you ask it that way, the answer is no. Nobody's going to do that. That's not the way we ask the question. So what we're doing is we are setting the framework so that the pieces can fit together in a way that's harmonious and uplifting for us. And the other thing that you mentioned a little bit earlier is that sometimes you realize that if you had gotten what you wanted when you thought you wanted it, you would have been completely unprepared for it and perhaps would have done a bad job of taking care of it. So in hindsight, we can look back and say, wow, I'm really glad I didn't get that. I was praying really hard, and it turns out that would not have served me at all. Right? You've had that happen.
Yeah, I like to take a little bit of a more positive perspective on what you just said, or a positive view on it. There were things that I wouldn't like to have happened, sure. But it's also, what excites me is that there's so much happening right now that is exciting. And had I gotten what I wanted, I would have not been positioned to experience this excitement. Yeah, I would have been able to do it. I'm thinking of a few things, and it would have served a few people at a certain level, maybe a lot of people at a certain level. But there are certain things that I'm hugely excited about, which has ignited the idea of different possibilities, which makes me think about occupy till I come, like occupy your mind, enjoy the wait, because there are other things happening. You don't want to miss what's happening.
Yep.
Because it could be a part of what you're going to do. You don't want to miss it. So, yeah. I mean, that, because I live in the area of excitement about possibilities, because I've been here a while. I've seen things, and it's really over and over and over again. You know, it's like, come on. I'm looking at, and then the Bible says nothing new under the sun. Okay, fine. Let me see the new spin anyway. It's like, hey, I'm tired of this one. Let me just see what's the new spin on this one.
Right.
And can I weave this into my thing, you know, and just having fun. Finally, I'm understanding that idea of enjoying the journey. You know, it's just how it is.
Right.
You can enjoy it or not.
Yeah. And the flip side of the timing question is, this is what I've been praying for. And, it's in timing. It's God's timing. That's a dismissal. It's possible that God has a different idea, that there is a way that the pieces can fit together that brings so much more richness and joy and uplift into our lives than we could have imagined, that the no that we're getting right now turns out to be the most positive thing that could ever happen. A big example and little examples. When I first got out of college, I had the opportunity to go to work at NBC at 30 Rock as an engineer in the union. And it was a possibility, and I didn't get it. And on the one hand, I was crestfallen, and because I wanted to be in the broadcast biz, that's the top, and that's all the rest of that stuff. And when I look back on that, would I have had the courage to quit a union job at NBC, working at 30 Rock, to go do something different? And I don't know. So that's, that could have been the golden handcuffs for me. So in retrospect, even with all the crappy things that happened along the way, it was very good that happened the way that it happened. And the other end of the story is procrastination. procrastination gets this terrible rap of, oh, you want to get stuff done, you're not getting it done, and it's so bad. And here's how you deal with procrastination. Here's how you work at it, and these make your lists and all the rest of the stuff. And I have the ability to procrastinate on an industrial scale. And the other thing that I've noticed, is sometimes there's something that I know that I need to do, and I'm not attending to it. I'm not taking care of it, and then it turns out I didn't need to. Either sometimes it's somebody else who took care of it, but a lot of times it becomes irrelevant. And whatever energy I would have put into doing that thing would have simply been wasted. So the other things that I did instead were not procrastination. It was just efficiency. But you don't know that at the time. And to anyone who is listening or watching, if you have an issue with procrastination, please do not take this as permission from Reverend Bill to procrastinate.
I was sitting here thinking, wow, okay, so maybe it's not so bad that I'm procrastinating. Maybe this is
watch
cool.
for it. Watch for what happens. I mean, there are times when, I'm out walking the dog and I think, oh, and I haven't talked to this person in an awfully long time. So I got to give them a call. And I get home and they call. I didn't have to dial. And it's those synchronicities. And, I'm not the sort of person who's going to stop in the middle of walking the dog so I can have a phone conversation, because I like to stay focused and do what I'm doing, and one thing at a time. But those things happen, and then it still winds up being what it was that I was opening to, and it fits in with my timeline.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think it's very much the moment, just taking a breath and not worry about making it happen. This is what I want. It should be doing. Listen, let's just calm down here, and see what happens. I thought of something earlier this week, and I can't pull it together, but it's just calm down and see what happens. You've done good, right?
Yep.
If you don't finish this or plow through this by noon, see what happens.
Yeah.
Check on it again at 6 and see if you're still okay. It's being kind to ourselves, because the day goes by so quickly. I notice now that at 6 o'clock it's not as bright as it was. And that triggers something because I'm night blind. So my kids would always tease me that by a certain time, mom has a curfew. In the summer, it's bright till 9 o'clock. But,
right.
In the winter, I have a curfew. So I'm conscious of squishing things in before I have to make sure I'm within 1 mile of home on a straight road, right? But it's a kindness, I think, that we can give to ourselves in accepting what's happening right now. It doesn't mean that this other thing isn't going to. But right now, this might be a little nice. This might be cool too, right? I really want to do this, but maybe I'll just stop over here at Starbucks and get a little something nice for myself. Yeah, and stop putting all this pressure that stress, brings on other things. It's going to be okay. Yep. And yeah. I could go on, but it's nice to feel peace.
Mm-hmm. And that's actually going to be a big piece of what the prayer is for this, for the close of this episode. So, and you just touched on it. It's about peace and the way we feel. Let's take a break and we'll do that prayer. It's Reverend Bill letting you know that the Practical Prayer for Real Results class is now available on demand. That's right, you can take it at your own pace, anytime you want. All of the information is at bethelight.com. That's b-the-light.com. You know where to find that stuff. The class is 5 lessons, broken down into 18 modules, and you can take them at whatever pace is comfortable for you. As you work through the process, it starts out with the theory, goes into the practice, there are experiential activities and exercises, and at the end of the program, you will wind up with an understanding of how practical prayer works, and a practical prayer for yourself that will work to create transformation in your life. And as you know, it works for everything. Take a look at the class online at bethelight.com.
There's a sample lesson so you can see how the class is going to work for you and then dive in. The great news is it's on sale now. You can register and save $20 off of the regular price. I'm looking forward to seeing you in class.
Welcome back to the Practical Prayer Podcast. I'm Carol with Reverend Bill Marcioni.
We've been having a wonderful conversation about timing, and specifically triggered by the people who dismiss somebody who's feeling frustrated because by saying, oh, well, it's God's timing. You just have to let go of it. It's God's timing, which is a slap. And it's unnecessary. Mm-hmm. It's unnecessary. And what do you do to pray in a way that brings those eventualities about? And what I'm going to suggest is that instead of praying for the thing that we want, like, oh, I want to have this relationship, I want to have that car, I want to live in this house, I want to get that job, I want to date that person, to take a step back, to put in a layer of abstraction. Okay, once I have that, how am I going to feel? How is my life going to change? What's the tone and texture and flavor of my life once I have that goodness? And then instead of praying for the thing specifically, I want the Maserati, or I want the model, or I want the job, the position, the title, the role, the income, the lotto ticket. Once I have it, how am I going to feel? And then set the intention, the prayer for how that feels. So if you have an idea of something that you'd like to have in your life that hasn't shown up yet, bring it to mind. Bring it to mind. We have to close our eyes to everything else and focus on that desired experience of goodness. And then we're going to focus on how that makes us feel. What is the feeling that I'm looking for? What is the metric of success and peace and successful completion that I have once that is part of my experience? How do I want to feel? Because when we set the intention, open the invitation for the feeling, then the pieces can fit together in a way that has nothing to do with what we had in mind and still brings about that feeling. And if I am feeling successful and prosperous and complete and healthy and loved, connected and creative, does it matter if it's not exactly the way that I had in mind to begin with? And in that way, we can let go of the judgment about what's going to be good or not. We can let go of the timing. It has to get to this particular point before I'm okay. And we become even more fully aware that we're co-creative partners in this process. And the prayer is to know that there's one power, one presence, one divine love, one source, one creative power that creates everything. It's God, it's nature, it's spirit, it's the Big Bang, it's whatever we call it, that one that shares itself and has been sharing itself. Since the very beginning of time, everything is that divine substance taking its own particular form. Everything, everyone, everywhere. And that includes me and each of us listening to this prayer right now. All of us, unique expressions of that one infinite presence. And so is everything else that we experience. So it is possible for that confluence of events, the conspiracy of the universe, to bring about events and circumstances, situation, people, places, activities in such a way that brings us that feeling of success, of completion, of uplift, of peace and harmony and peace of mind. It is possible for the pieces to fit together in a way that is either completely predictable and exactly what we had in mind, or completely different, and still bringing about that same sense of uplift and harmony and satisfaction and completeness. So that's what I'm claiming. That goodness unfolding in a way that brings that newness, that joy, that good to each of us in our own way. I'm grateful for it. I'm grateful for the good that's unfolding. I'm grateful for the awareness of this creative process. I'm grateful to be able to speak this word of intention, of invitation, of opening, and release it into that creative law that has been creating since the very beginning. And to know with absolute certainty that it is creating this goodness now. This goodness is underway, and it's underway now. And I am grateful. And so it is.
Practical Prayer Podcast with Reverend Bill Marcioni and Carol Lawrence is a production of BeTheLight.com.
be-the-light.com,
where you can find more information about practical prayer for real results.
Our theme is by Music of Wisdom. You can learn about the spiritual community of New Thought Philadelphia with daily guided meditations,
Weekly celebrations of spirit,
and Reverend Bill's classes in practical spirituality
at newthoughtphilly.org.
This podcast is supported by listeners like you. We're grateful for your tax-deductible donation at newthoughtphilly.org or the link in the episode description.